I can't believe the Dolphins. Well, they lost their captain early. They also, Finnifuaki, he went to the HIA. Trey Fuller
Herbie
got
Farnworth,
injured. Herbie Farnworth. They're a really tough, gritty footy team. And then to watch Jordan Rapana, what a player. What a player he is.
It was just mayhem in these. Both sides had so many opportunities during that Golden Point
Hate
period.
Golden Point. Well, I like Golden Point, but I hate Golden Point where it's just a field goal fight.
Shootout.
Last 5 minutes of real time, everyone's trying to win, throwing the ball around. Golden Point, it's 5 in for a field goal.
You're more of a golden try.
Throw the ball around.
Yeah, but are they going to throw the ball around? What's the guarantee that they're going to throw the ball around and risk losing the ball?
Depends who your halfback is, Freddie. Depends who your ball players are. If you've got blokes like Jimmy Maloney or a Munster.
I can't imagine it being...
Sam Walker,
they're just playing.
I can't imagine it being any more exciting. I know going for field goals is a little bit... But you get a shot from 40 out. Like, you can't... It's just hard to score tries. It's so hard to score tries.
that was a great contest though. Always going to be with these two footy sides. Like, if you look at their lineup on paper, you're probably thinking, well, they don't sit amongst the best in the competition. But what they do provide is both teams have plenty of effort and they're tough footy sides. So you know exactly what you're going to get from both of them. Doesn't matter who they're playing, doesn't matter where they're playing.
What about this?
In these conditions, like it was pretty ordinary conditions there through parts of the game. Like that's an incredible try.
He actually ran the ball 2 tackles before that. He spent the whole set at the ruck and just followed it. He was a decoy a couple of times, ran it on the 4th, and then chased it on the last tackle. But that was an incredible try.
Once again, Ricky Stewart's ability to get this young team up and get them to believe. Very young forward pack, inexperienced halves, but he's got them firing. Geez, this one...
That was questionable.
that was questionable.
Contentious.
I didn't know what was going on.
K.O. Weeks, he is
Athlete.
lightning, isn't
What
he?
an athlete.
And you know, like when you see newsreels and write-ups and all that sort of stuff, it's always about, you know, Penrith or Melbourne, Broncos, Roosters, these type of teams. These two sides, they're sort of flying relatively under the radar, but they're currently sitting 4th, Dolphins, and Raiders are 6th. So we're nearly at the halfway mark of the competition. They're both sitting well and truly within the 8.
Jeremy Marshall King, Cameron.
Yeah, great player. Yeah, really good player. I remember boarding a plane a couple of years ago with Peter O'Sullivan, who was on the plane. This is when he was on his recruitment
guy,
drive,
yeah,
with the Dolphins. And he just asked me the question. He said, "What are your thoughts on Marshall King?" And I said, "Mate, I love the way he plays.
Was that when he was at Canterbury?
Yeah.
Like, see, I found at Canterbury, he didn't show any deception. I thought all he wanted to do was sort of shift the ball off the deck. And I sort of, when I watched him at the Dolphins, I thought, this is a different bloke.
player. Yeah, well, he actually had a quiet season that year. I think that must have been 22.
Yeah.
The first part of that year, he was relatively quiet, but he's back into the season. He played extremely well, and yeah. So I remember talking with Pete and just saying, man, I actually love the way he plays. Like when he's actually running the football,
Yeah, what were you seeing?
Running the football, his ability to do a lot of like subtlety around the dummy halves. It's a little bit like Api Coruscant, but he tends to play a little bit quicker, a little bit straighter. He's been such a good buy for the Dolphins.
I don't think I've seen ever a hooker like run through the defence line as much as him. He's got that, like you said, has this lovely dummy, but he's always running that way, always running straight.
What about Ethan Strange for the Raiders? You said tough side as well. Some of those late in the game as well. I think it was maybe just before Golden Point as well. Like he showed he's got his skills, but he's also got his brutality.
He plays to his strength at the moment, like a young 5'8", support, run the ball, tackle hard, just play with enthusiasm. The other stuff, the game management, that happens when you get older and slow down. He just competes.
Look at the two halves there.
And he's so strong.
Unreal.
There was a part of the game where he skipped and fended, and he passed to Xavier Savage and Xavier dropped the ball, but I thought, wow, speed, footwork, toughness, it's what you need in a 5'8".
What about the earlier game on Saturday afternoon? The Dragons, they stunned the Panthers, fighting back from a halftime deficit to win 22-10. It's a huge bounce back as well for the Dragons, considering their big loss last week to the Bulldogs. And they actually spoke about this after the game, that it was a halftime spray by Shane Flanagan, and it just fired them up in that second half.
Well, they ran harder. You could see it. After half-time, the first set at 6, they went 100 metres with the ball. their big men just charged. Now, on the back of that, they completed high, they kick well, and sometimes your biggest strength is your biggest weakness. Their biggest strength is the size of their pack. But if you keep the ball off them, they fall in a heap. But they completed high. So hard to stop this big forward pack.
It was the complete opposite to last week, wasn't it, when they took on the Dogs? Their first half was powerful. They played that power game early and they went into the sheds 12-10 up. And then the second half, they come out and they forgot to play football. But it was a complete opposite out there against Penrith. And Shane Flanagan spoke about that halftime spray. He said, look, as a head coach, you've got maybe 2 or 3 of those a year. I've just used one up already. So. But they responded. The best thing about it, Danica, is that they responded. The players responded, and that's all you can ask for.
Do you remember in your playing careers a halftime spray that really fired everyone up?
I remember one in Origin.
You would have had plenty.
Several.
I remember one in Origin. It was literally a spray. Gus got us all in, was spraying us, and then something flew out of his mouth and landed on Sean Timmins' shoulder. And we were all looking at it. And then he said to Timo, how much do you want it? And Timo's looking at it and goes, I want it bad. When he left the room, we all pissed ourselves laughing. And then went out and we won the game.
What was it?
Oh, I thought it was a bit of calamari.
What
You would have copped some sprays off Gus.
And Ricky. And Ricky and Gus for most of my career, really.
Is there an art to it?
Yeah, you got to pick your time. You got to pick your time, and you got to make sure that you got a good reason to do it. And if you're doing it all the time, no one likes too much swearing or yelling. It doesn't get a reaction out of anyone. But it's awesome.
What about some from Craig?
Several. No, the best one was we were playing the Sharkies. I forget what year. It might have been 05. And we were down 22-0 half-time, I think it was. And he gave one of his all-time best sprays. We ended up winning the game 26-22, so...
In calling out individuals?
Yeah, individuals. There was no holding back. He squared a few individuals up, and he didn't care. It didn't worry him, which I think that's a great thing in sport. Is that the coach doesn't hold back. If individuals need to be told that they need to pick their game up, it needs to happen.
Gus had one after a game. We're playing St George, and come in after the game. We actually were winning easy at half time, and we just won. So we won the game. And we're sitting around, we're half happy with ourselves, and he come in and there was a big bucket of ice and the beers in the middle. And he come in and tried to make a statement and just booted, after he's yelling at us, he just booted the bucket. I think it was going to just fly over and everything fall out. He broke his toe. So it went, boo, he's going, and it just went, oh.
Supercoach has gone mad.
The Bulldogs have been producing some pretty impressive victories.
Yeah, that was effort. All on effort. An early sin binning to Connor Tracy. And Jacob Carraz just stood up. He just come up with some of these runs, getting the boys out of trouble. But actually scored in that period. Josh Adokar was brilliant before he went off. And they just defended their line so well. They talk about doing it for each other, but there's more than that. Like their technique and how they work their systems. They've all bought into it, obviously, because Newcastle, I don't know, they did nothing. They offered up very little, I've got to say.
Well, heading into this game, the Bulldogs are ranked second in defence. Cameron Ciraldo, that's one of his big focuses. He really focuses on defence, and to hold Newcastle to 2 as well. They would have been so impressed with that.
It's their best defensive effort or start to a season for, I think it's 10 years, Danica, at this part of the season, going all the way back to 2014 where they played in the grand final. So, not saying that this current Bulldogs team will make it all the way to the grand final this year, but you can see there's a clear shift in their attitude and their commitment to their football, particularly their defence. Now, this is a bit of a moment where Reed Mahoney gets under the skin of Saifiti, where he's got an art of doing it, doesn't he?
Well, we were
a minute to go.
We were speaking about that a few weeks ago here on the Sunday Footy Show, Joe, and you were pretty vocal about Reed Mahoney getting under the skin of the big boys, but it's working for his team.
We should be talking about Reed Mahoney, a chance of playing Origin football this year. He's on the verge of playing Origin football. I should be talking about his kicking game the other night was sensational. But if I say Reed Mahoney, everyone just goes, oh, yeah, he's a pest, he gets under people's skin. It takes away from his great play. Now, when you finish, does he want his legacy to people say, oh, yeah, he was a grub? You want to talk about how tough he was, what a great defender. His kicking game the other night was outstanding. I think he's on the verge of playing State of Origin. I don't think he needs to do that rubbish.
He might be broke. He's been fined $5,500 already.
I just don't think he needs to do it.
I don't know who's paying it, but
What do you think? Do you think he needs to?
No, I just think
He could have played
it's
with doing this, right?
yeah, it's just a lot of it's just unnecessary, isn't it? I've been a victim of Reed Mahoney. I don't know if you boys might have been commentating the game. We're playing Parramatta semi-final. I got binned.
yeah, right.
Yeah, so I had a kick from dummy half, and Reed was at marker. He was playing at Parramatta, and he grabbed a hold of me and just wouldn't let go. I wanted to get down on the kick chase, and I was trying to get rid of his arms from holding on to me, and swiped him across the face, and the ref put me in the bin.
But that's a big
He got
moment
me.
to send
Well, that's
in.
what I mean.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
he suckers you in, and
There's
gone.
been a few at Canterbury. Corey Hughes was a bit like that, and I spoke to Sonny, and Sonny loved Corey Hughes.
Well, Josh Reynolds had the nickname Pest.
Josh Reynolds, he was a grub. He
Reed,
was-
you mean
Grub,
Reed's
that's right.
He's a champion fella. Champion fella. I worry that this is going to be his legacy. People are going to say, oh, yeah, he was a pest, he was a pain in the backside.
Takes
We're
away from
talking
his
about what a
ability.
great player he is.
Well, there was a pest off. Can we call it that? With Jackson Hastings. That was and they come together early. The pest off happened early.
I've got to ask you, Joey, Newcastle, what was your brutal assessment of this performance?
I was really disappointed. The fans turned up, pouring rain, over nearly 22,000 turned up. There had two players in the bin at one stage, Canterbury, and they still could not score a try. Never looked like scoring. And look, we know they're defending pretty well, but they're not a superpower of the competition. The attack, it's just the halves don't complement each other. Hastings and Cogger are halfbacks. They're on the ball halfbacks. They don't complement each other. Combinations work because they complement each other. Doesn't work. Shut up.
What
There's always
changed?
a camera.
Are you laughing at me?
No, it was
we're laughing at
Kalen
Kalen
Ponga
Ponga.
putting the beanie on. Would you be
Well,
changing the team?
I said after the game, I was quite vocal that Will Price
Will
needs
Price,
to come in, the young Englishman. Also, adding to being too technical, Jaden Brayley, he's a hard-working, tackling dummy half, but he doesn't run too much. He's the style of dummy half who just works and works and works. So he just distributes. So automatically it's sideways. Then Jackson plays sideways. You need someone straight in the attack. They need a running 5'8". And that's why Will Price, I'd roll the dice with him. I know he's raw, but he's got the tools as a running 5'8" to trouble Melbourne. Even Phoenix Crosland is a running 5'8". Cogger and Hastings are first receivers. And it's not a knock on them individually. They just don't complement each other as halves.
can they compete without Kalen Ponga?
Well, they've shown they have the last 3 or 4 weeks leading into that game. We'll know more going down to Melbourne, play Melbourne on Sunday down there on a fast track, and I think they go Penrith after that. But obviously, without Kalen, they are one-paced. They need that spark from the back.
Just quickly on the Bulldogs as well, we did see Josh Adokar go off with a hamstring injury. It was ready news this morning that it's looking like he could be facing 8 to 10 weeks out with that hamstring injury. What does this mean for the Bulldogs going forward? Do you think that they can still continue this red-hot run?
Well, they've put 32 points on the Knights without Stephen Crichton, Viliami Kikau and Matt Burton. So the best 3 players were out and they put 32. Went up there and just defended their way into scoring points. I think what'll happen now is they're going to lose Josh Adokar. I suppose one area where they seem to have a little bit of room is their outside backs. They just seem to keep
Well, they've got a
tossing
number
up
of
outside backs.
Young bloke of Wilson plays in the
Wilson.
headgear.
Blake
He
Wilson.
goes well. He'll come in on the
So he played. He played on the weekend. So Blake Wilson played. Carraz has the ability to move between centre and winger. He was awesome.
How good's he
Jake
playing?
and Carraz. He was the technical part of what he was doing. His fourth tackle runs, like setting up the run for his kicker.
Yep.
He was always poking his nose through, breaking the line, getting quick play the balls. He was fantastic. Now they'll find another wing, another centre.
Well, they've got that's the thing that the Bulldogs have. They've got so many players who can fill so many different positions because that's what they...
The recruitment has been a masterstroke.
Kurt Mann on the wing.
And they were bagged. Obviously,
Hooker,
Gus-
Lock, 5'8", and a winger.
Gus Gould got
You can do
hammered
it,
about
Kurt.
the recruitment, but it's a masterstroke.
It's working
They've
well.
got players who can play numerous positions, but they're tough and they compete. And that's been their success.
Some big guns returned as well for Parramatta. Mitch Moses, in particular, the influence that he had on his entire team, just how big was it?
Masterclass, 9 out of 10. His kicking game is without doubt the best in the competition. He hits them so sweet for a guy with little chicken legs. But he was the difference. He was the absolute difference. Him and Clint Gutherson coming back. He was so composed. He's just on the top of his game. Yeah, he's in rare touch for his first game back for a couple of months.
Yeah, you bring in those type of players, with that experience. It gives the players around them belief and confidence, and you get see a complete different attitude in the Parramatta Eels with the way they played compared to the last, I'd say, month of football, where they've just struggled to be in games. Took on the ladder leaders. Now I know they were down on a couple of trips as well, but they had a quality outfit, the Sharkies. But yeah, just a complete turnaround in mindset with the way they took on that match.
How can they use this, and do you think that this is something that they can build on for a bit of a run going forward, or is it still going to be some tough weeks ahead for Parra?
Well, I think it all depends what happens with New South Wales, I think. I'm not sure where Madge was. I think he was always wanting to pick Nico Hines, whether Mitchell Moses was in his plans as well, but given he's had coming off a broken foot, so he hadn't been able to run a lot, so that's going to have a lot to do with his health and fitness, but they're going to win 9 from 12, I think. At least
they can't make that
to make the semis. So, and then their next couple of games are tricky. They've got Brisbane, they've got Roosters, they've got all the big teams. So it's going to be a very tough run in, very tough.
For the Sharks, William Kennedy was just unbelievable. I think it's the best game I've seen him play.
That try was incredible, wasn't it?
Tough. Jeez, he put his body on the line. Are you worried about the Sharks?
It's funny, I think there was a time where you couldn't get flogged. The team that won the comp would go through a season and, if they got beat, they just got beat. I think times have changed a little bit, where sometimes the game's so quick that you can lose control of the game and actually the other team can score a lot of points. At the moment, I think they're just going through a bit of an issue. I never had them as my team winning the competition. I think up until now they're doing an incredible job. They're changing the way I think everyone thinks about Cronulla, but a little bit of a hiccup, but I think they'll definitely be there at the end of the year.
Are you worried about them, considering the loss the week before where they were absolutely smashed by Penrith?
No, I just think they've hit a bit of a flat spot. I think a lot on the Sharks will come down to Nico and how he comes out of the origin period. Like any team, the halfback can be the key, but he's the key for Cronulla. So if he has a really good origin series, I think he can take the Sharks to another level.
And there's an awareness of them now, right, with every team in the competition, because they're leading the comp. Every time, doesn't matter what team they play, they're up for that match. So they just got to be slightly off the Sharks and they can get beat because they know the opposition's there to win it. Look, I never had them winning the comp this year as well. And that's the biggest challenge for them is in the past couple of years, they've actually done really well in the regular season but failed at the end. They need to try and convert that this year. Well,
that's the thing. It's always the big games that there's been question marks over them because they haven't won a finals match as well.
And it's going to stay there till they win it. That'll always be the knock on it.
They went down to Melbourne. That was an incredible effort without Nico. Well, that was a great win for the club.
And then
they backed that up and beat Brisbane.
Magic round. No, they beat the Roosters.
Oh, they beat the Roosters. Yeah, that's right.
Magic round.
So, I've got to say they answered a few of them, and I think in their own heads they answered it at the moment. These last two games have come off them 2 wins, so they most surely took a toll. So hopefully they'll just get a chance to regroup and they'll go again.
Yeah, time for Cronulla to regroup as well.
Can Parra make the 8?
I don't think so.
Oh, it's going to be tough.
Yeah.
No, you don't think so?
I think winning 9 from the last 12, too big a hurdle.
This year, NRL on 9 is your one-stop shop for all footy.
That's right, Freddie. Not about the highlights. Action. 7 days a week.
Billy and Gus podcast. Get that on your drive on the way home. Immortal Behaviour. Grab a seat on the couch for that. And, of course, my favourite, Freddie in the 8.
The best footy brains, the biggest games.
Don't trust the algorithm. Subscribe to NRL on 9 and get all your entertainment there.